What's good, everyone, and welcome back to the Water Boys channel. As today we will be covering another fantasy football draft. This will be a part two. The reason it's a part two is because it's my other team, and I want to go in depth with that as well. If you guys haven't checked it out yet, our first podcast will be up. It is in the links down below. And without further ado, let's jump into this fantasy draft. So before I dive into my first pick, I want to mention kind of my draft strategy going into it. My strategy with this would have been I wanted to go running back, tight end, running back. And then, of course, strategies change once draft actually happens, and that's exactly what happened. My pick in this draft was pick number 10. So my first pick, went with Tyreek Hill. Now, I really wanted to go with like an Austin Eckler or an Aaron Jones, but they were already gone. And then my next priority would have been Travis Kelce, because I would have preferred a strong number one tight end, because we know later down in the drafts those are more hard to obtain. And then once he was gone, I was like, well, I might as well go for the next best weapon, which is Tyreek, and we know he can give you your yards, he gives you your receptions, he's that number one target. And then with my number two pick, I went with Najee Harris. He was, in my eyes, the best back available at the time. I think he will get a heavy workload. I know he's a rookie, but I think Pittsburgh is trying to implement a strong running game, so I think he fits that well. So I kind of came away kind of iffy with my first two picks, but also really satisfied because I got two strong core top picks at their positions. And then at number 3, a lot of people will say it was kind of a reach, but also too, if he does the output that he did in Florida throughout his whole college career, I went with Kyle Pitts. He's going to be the number 2 target, maybe even 1A, 1B type of target, but also this was also kind of forced as well. Like I said, Travis Kelce went early, and then I was hoping I could get George Kittle, but then George Kittle went, and then Mark Andrews went, and then I felt like I had to pull the trigger on this move. And I feel like if the Falcons still are a pass-heavy team, I think Kyle Pitts will get his numbers. And then for my number 4 pick, I had to solidify it on my number 2 running back. I went with James Robinson. I think it's very hard in fantasy to get 2 strong number 2 backs, and I think I accomplished that well. I think James Robinson is a really great pickup for the fact we all know Travis Etienne is out for the year, so that means he will get his workload. A lot of people are worried about Carlos Hyde moving forward, but I think he'll get his touches, but once they figure out James Robinson is the one guy that he solidified himself last year. Once he's proven, I think he already is, and he'll win Urban Meyer over, I think he will like run away with that role, and I think he'll get all the touches, goal line, and all that. He's your every 3-down back. And now my next pick, which if you watch the podcast, I stuck with the same tradition. I went with Justin Herbert as my quarterback. I kind of wanted to switch it up because I don't usually like watching both quarterbacks in both leagues, and they're both my same QBs, but it just so happened to pan out that way, and maybe it'll make my life easier on Sunday, but we know how I feel about Justin Herbert. I think he'll be a great fantasy football quarterback and a regular season quarterback as well. And with my number 6 pick, this will be another reach too, but I went off my prior draft as well. When the defenses started flying, you couldn't get one and recover from it, so I went with the Washington defense right away. We know what they're about. We know Chase Young and them boys will get their sacks. We know the secondary is very solidified and strong. It's going to be the core for Washington, and I think they'll give me double-digit points in every week, and I think that's very hard and strong to find in fantasy football. I hope I'm not wrong, because we all know when it comes to fantasy purposes, getting a tough, strong defense to last you throughout the year is very hard, but it is also very possible. And with me reaching here, I hope it was worth the pick. And with my 7th pick, I actually had both Denver Bronco wide receivers on the board. I had Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy. I went with the Jerry Jeudy route just because I feel like with Teddy Bridgewater under center now, I feel like those more underneath routes, the slant routes, the mid type of routes, perfect what Jerry Jeudy does, and I think him and Bridgewater will become a perfect match. And I think that fits more with them more than it does with Sutton. I think Sutton will get his touches, but I also think it'll take him a while. Not saying he's not recovered from the surgery. He looks perfectly fine from preseason, but I just think this is Jerry Jeudy's receiving core now, but I could be wrong. There's differences with that, but I just like Jerry Jeudy in this offense more than I do like Cortland Sutton. And then with my 8th pick, it's weird. I said I don't want to match my quarterbacks, but I matched them up again, and I took Joe Burrow. Again, that's another risky pick, but if it pans out, we've seen what he does in his rookie year. He slings the ball. He has his receiving core. He has the deep threats and everything like that. He has the backfield. He has the offense. And if he is what he was last year, and it puts me in a situation to where I might start him if he has better matchups in the week, that's ideal for me, because a lot of people like that one solidified starter, but you never know. Matchups is key. And if Herbert has a bad matchup and Burrow has a really great one, I'd be happy to pull him in just because I know he's a solidified starter and he can get me my points. Now with my 9th pick, at the moment, I felt like it was a huge reach, But then with the quarterback news coming out of New England and Mac Jones becoming the starter, I didn't take Mac Jones, and I ain't going to have 3 quarterbacks on my roster. But I did take the starting running back, Damien Harris. And I think with that, they're trying to do what Tom was there and what they did is a lot of dink and dunk passes, a lot of passes to the running back. That helps me out a lot, and a lot of running game. And I think that bolds perfectly for Damien Harris, and I might have found a way to solidify a number 2 back or have 3 really strong backs. And honestly, that pans out perfectly because in prior years, I struggled to get 2, and if I have 3 really strong backs right now, I'm in love with the team. And with my number 10th pick, and yes, I've talked about him a lot in my rookie videos. I drafted him in my prior draft as well. Jaylen Waddle. I think that's just a match made in heaven. I think he could be on, like, right out the gate as 75-plus catches. I know it seems insane, but let's not act like we haven't seen rookie wide receivers do it before. And it's just the type of connection him and Tua have had since college. They mend well together, and I think he's the number 1 receiver out the gate, and I'm surprised he wasn't taken a lot earlier, but it's beneficial for me because I got him on both teams now. Now with my 11th pick, I mentioned him as well after he got traded, and I'm also kind of ecstatic to get him, but Sony Michel. I think he fits well with Sean McVay. He's a really good runner. He is really good pass catcher. I don't know if it will transition right away into the Rams offense, but that's why he's on my bench right now. If it becomes October or November when he starts running well, now I got a real situation. I can just put him in the flex. And you got to have a strong bench because you don't know when the bye weeks come and when you got to pull people in and out. And I think if he can be a running back 1 or 2 in the Rams offense, that's a solid flex position for any team. And then with my 12th pick, I also went running back again. I try to go running back heavy just because I've always struggled with running backs, and I don't want that to be an issue. And hopefully it doesn't hurt me down the line with my receiving core, but I feel really solid with my receiving core. But Devin Singletary was my other pick. And again, this can be another solid running back 1 option for Buffalo. Yes, he's always been in a running back competition with Zach Moss, but I feel like he's always been the better back. And I feel like if he can get his touches, we know he's a really good receiver out of the backfield. And if you could steal him in later rounds, or even I see him being a free agent in a lot of leagues in ESPN and NFL, I think he'll be mostly owned by October or November, and I'm hoping that's the case, that he's doing really well and producing. And in my case, if he's on my bench and I could put him in a flex, that's really great for me. And with my 13th pick, it was not really a sexy pick. It's the kicker. It's Matt Prater. Now, at this point, I kind of waited a little too long. But again, you got to know who you're drafting within your leagues. Because in my aspect, I didn't feel like I was waiting long at all. But when your other, what do you call them? Yeah, when your other teams draft by position and they go straight down the order, they're going to fill theirs and go for the bench. I go by best player available, and I try to solidify my roles, try to go by the bye weeks, which I'll recap. I did pretty horrible in this, but that's why I filled up running backs. But with Matt Prater, what I really liked, he's always been a great kicker. And with Arizona, one thing you want to focus on kickers, you got to focus on the teams that score points. And Arizona will put up points, so I think he'll be a good kicker for me throughout the year. And now my last 3 picks, these are the type of picks you get into where you're just hoping on like true potential, and you're hoping that you hit a diamond in the rough. And my first one, and I think a lot of people should go for it, is Russell Gage. A lot of people aren't talking about it enough, but he had 75 catches last year. It was quiet. He averaged 10 yards a catch, so he has 750 yards, 758 to be exact. But with that, he's now the number 2 wide receiver, probably number 3 option behind Kyle Pitts and Calvin Ridley. But when you're the solidified number 2 and no Julio there no more, I'm taking a chance that he's going to see more balls. And if he's on my bench and he can make progress, maybe become trade bait down the line, you got to think about that too when you have these players. Like if you need something better to help your starting lineup and you have a solid receiving core on your bench, you can use him as trade bait. Now, either he'll go on my lineup if he produces, or he can be trade bait. But I think he can produce really well in that Falcons offense. Now, this next pick is kind of bittersweet because the pick before, AJ Green was still on the board, and I was like, damn, with 2 picks left, if I can get AJ Green, the solidified number 2 in Arizona, he could easily be my number 2 on my team, but he was taken. So I went with potential, and I went with the rookie, and I went with Terrace Marshall Jr. He has been balling in preseason, and I know he's got a competition ahead of him. It's not even really competition, but when you got DJ Moore and then Robbie Anderson, they're solidified vets. They'll get their snaps. But if somehow, some way he can get a role in the team and become a slot receiver, like that'd be perfect. And these type of players, when it becomes the rookies or people trying to earn a roster spot, don't kick them off your bench way too quickly, because a lot of people, they'll see, oh, they didn't produce the first 2 weeks and they'll kick them on the bench. But then when October and November comes and they're getting their snaps and they're scoring, you're high on the waiver wire. Someone else that has priority, they take them, and you're like, damn, I used to have them, now you don't, and it can hurt your chances in the fantasy run. So with rookies, make sure you keep them on your bench until probably like mid-October, and if they're not producing by then, and there's something, unless there's like a great option out there, you can go for that. But with rookies, sometimes you got to be patient. And then with my last pick, a lot of people would say it's a risky pick, but also I think it's a risky where it could be a high upside, and it's with Adam Trotman, the tight end. He is injured. Right now, he is expected to miss the first 3 weeks, which is perfectly fine. I already got my starting tight end. Now, the thing is, his injury can linger. It just depends on how he progresses. But with what I seen last year and before camp, he was a sleeper. Everyone was talking about him. And with him and Jameis and then that offense, they don't have really a number one until Michael Thomas comes back. Marcus Callaway, who I've mentioned a lot as well, can be a sleeper. Like, this Saints offense has a lot of sleepers besides Alvin Kamara, of course. If he comes back healthy, like, I think that's like A+ pick at that position, but we'll just see how long this injury lingers for him. If not, I got to steal. And with that, that will wrap up my fantasy football draft recap number 2. Let me know down below what you guys think of my draft. Hey, grade it A, B, C, D, E? Nah, there ain't no E or F. Let me know if you agree with my picks. Let me know if I reached on any, if anything was too risky, if I actually got a diamond in the rough, if I actually had great things fall to me. Honestly, I like my team in the beginning. When I was thinking about it a lot, when it first hit, I was like, damn, like, I struggled. And here's the reason why I thought I struggled was because a lot of my bye weeks match, and that's why I got a lot of running backs at the end to try to, replace them towards the future. But when week 7 comes by, I'm going to be struggling. But hopefully these running backs like a Devin Singletary and a Sony Michel pan out. But with that, you guys, if you have made it this far in the video, I greatly appreciate it. Please do leave that thumbs up. And if you haven't yet, please do subscribe to the channel. Me and Tim will be dropping podcasts twice weekly. I will be dropping these little videos out throughout the week so you guys have updated NFL news, rumors, and all the content you need. With that, take care.